anyone who's joining us either live or after the fact. This is a brief introduction and an alumni panel, a Center College alumni panel, I should say, um, regarding our full-time and our professional MBA programs at the University of Louisville. Let me see here. I'm getting some feedback, so I'm just going to go ahead and mute people until we go ahead through the agenda here. But the University of Louisville MBA programs offer a variety of delivery options, and we're looking for specifically not necessarily business students, but we're looking for students with diverse backgrounds that can lend themselves to being flexible to learn the business side of the world. And at the College of Business, we believe that everything is business. And it truly is, whether you're interested in working in a nonprofit or you want to go to law school or med school. All of these things encompass business. You know, for example, if you want to run a nonprofit, you must maintain some revenue in order to exist, right? So you have to stay in the green. And I think what the MBA offers our students in general is that broad business scope, as well as opportunities to directly impact your resume by putting you out in the world with our premier internship partners. So for today, we have joining us Sarah Michaels, who is a recent full-time MBA graduate. She comes to us from Western Kentucky. She did the full-time MBA, worked in admissions as an intern during the program, and was hired probably 2 days after she graduated to join our recruitment team. Also, I will ask our center alumni who have graciously joined us today to introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll go through a series of about 3 or 4 questions for each panelist, and then we'll conclude. And if by that point anyone has joined us, they're free to ask questions. And if no one joins us and you're viewing this on YouTube, please feel free to reach out to the University of Louisville directly at mba@louisville.edu, or to one of our center alumni panelists, and we will provide their emails that they wish to use in the chat, and Brianna can share that with anyone after the fact. So first up, Austin Bates, why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Sure. Thanks, Stephen. So my name is Austin Bates. I graduated in 2017 from Center College, and then went to the University of Louisville Law School, Brandeis School of Law, and graduated in May of 2020 in the beginning of the coronavirus. Despite the transition to online learning, took the opportunity to continue my education one more time. And I am now a current full-time MBA student, and will graduate in August of 2021 with hopes of getting into the business world with a legal background.
Very good. John, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hey, not at all. Thank you. My name is John Dickens. I'm a 2012 graduate of Center College. I majored in international relations, and I'm currently in the MD MBA dual degree program at the University of Louisville School of Medicine and College of Business, this is a five-year program. So you can basically break it up however you want to, but the way that I've done it is I've completed my first 3 years of medical school. This year I'm doing the full-time MBA program and working as an intern for Humana in their digital health and analytics department. And then next year I'll return and finish my last year of med school before matching into a residency program.
Awesome. Thank you. And Matt, last but certainly not least.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. I actually graduated from Center in the beautiful year of 2020. And I was an econ and finance major there. So I'm a little bit newer to the scene than some of you guys, but yeah, similar to Austin, I'm in the full-time MBA program. planning to graduate in August 2021, and I'm currently interning with Assured Partners in their employee benefits department. So been getting a lot of number crunching and things of that nature so far.
Awesome. Thank you all. So anyone joining us virtually can tell that we have a pretty broad range of panelists here, and each of their journeys has been different. Actually, let's not leave Sarah off the list. Sarah, why don't you tell us about yourself and how you ended up in the MBA program as well?
Absolutely. So my name is Sarah Michaels. I'm originally from Louisville. I went to Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green for my undergraduate degree, studied management and marketing, graduated in May of 2019, and then went on to U of L, came back home, went to U of L to get the full-time MBA, and then just graduated a few months ago. And then got that full-time, was an intern at the College of Business in the MBA admissions department, and then was a pipeline to full-time employment for me. It was a great opportunity, and I am now a recruiting manager for the graduate business programs in the College of Business.
Awesome. Thank you.
Stephen, I think I forgot to mention that I'm an intern as well at the Greater Louisville Incorporated, which is the Louisville Area Chamber of Commerce. So it serves the 15-county region, including 2 counties, Clark, Floyd, and maybe 3 counties in southern Indiana. And so, yeah, it's internship seeking as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, and that's a great point. All of our panelists here are gainfully employed while working on their MBA program, their MBA degree. You know, and for anyone, let me give a plug for Austin here. Anyone interested in relocating to Louisville after you graduate from Center and getting your MBA. GLI is a fantastic organization, very well run. They often host events that pre-COVID our MBA students would attend. So keep that in mind and look them up and see how you might be able to plug into the greater business community when you get to Louisville. But first, let me start off with some questions that I think normally would have been asked from students in the audience. I will play the part of the curious student. If each of you, and we'll start with Austin here, if you could tell us a little bit about your journey from Center College to the College of Business. You know, what makes your journey unique, and then how did you finally decide on, okay, I'm gonna make that leap and get my MBA?
Sure. So I was an international studies major at Center and really enjoyed international law and some of the classes taught by Dr. Robert Bosco and Dina Beatty, Dr. Dina Beatty. And while I enjoyed politics, knew that I didn't really want to get into that side of it because I had a politics minor. And, you know, law school ends up being a catch-all for a lot of people that don't really know what they want to do, but know that they need to continue their education to keep moving forward. So I took the LSAT. I also took the GRE. My LSAT score was better than my GRE. So I said, okay, I guess I'm going to law school. Ended up really, I guess, both not understanding what it meant to be a traditional, or to be in the traditional practice of law. And I guess 2 years into it, found out I didn't really want to do that. So at that point, I started looking for ways to transition into the business world, which I did find interesting as it related to law. And so then I started applying in a little after, I guess, the end of the spring term of my second year of law school, which was past when I could have, for the American Bar Association purposes, declare myself as a dual degree. So I technically have completely graduated the law school. I have my degree. I have the piece of paper saying I went to school and graduated and all that stuff. But I can't say that I so the business school was gracious enough to take me on as a dual degree for tuition purposes. And I guess this gets into maybe the other ideas or other questions of why U of L. But I guess I can touch on that later. But then transitioned to the business school, and with the intent of taking the bar after I finish here.
Awesome. So we will have an MBA lawyer on our hands here in the next year or so, let's say. Fantastic. What about you, John? I know your journey's been a little different than those that we would consider, a dual MD, MBA, or students at Center currently now thinking of going to med school. They may not understand all the paths available to them. So what about your journey?
Yeah, happy to speak on that. I'm what you would call a non-traditional student. That's what I was classified as when I applied to medical school. And the reason for that is because when I was at Center, I didn't take any science classes other than the earth sciences requirement that everyone has to take. So I didn't do any biology, no chemistry, no physics, nothing. And I studied international relations because that's what I was interested in learning. And I really enjoyed it, got a lot out of it, did a lot of study abroad, and really enjoyed my time studying from people like Dr. Hartman Mahmood, Dr. Bosco, and Kyle Anderson, who is no longer with Center, but is still probably well known. So I did that, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, in all honesty. Similar to Austin, I thought maybe law school would be a good option for me. I had grown up around people in legal careers and legal professions. So I took the LSAT, but ultimately decided that I wasn't ready to commit myself to a higher degree yet. And I kind of wanted to figure out what was out there and see what I really wanted to do, and also make some money. And so I applied to a lot of different jobs, but eventually got recruited to a company called Epic Systems, which is based in Madison, Wisconsin. They're the largest electronic health records vendor on the planet. And at the time, there were no Center graduates working there. I think I was the first one hired there. So immediately after graduation, I moved there and started working as an implementation manager, where I would travel to healthcare systems across the US and England and basically install the electronic health record system for that healthcare system. And through that, I got exposed to the world of healthcare, as well as healthcare information technology. And I just fell in love with it. I worked at Epic for about 1.5 years, 2 years, which is about standard tenure for that job, and then moved to a late stage startup based out of Chicago called MB Solutions, which specialized in patient engagement and population health management technologies. So kind of the idea would be to take the data that's in the electronic health record and apply it to population health management to improve clinical outcomes and decrease wasteful spending. I really enjoyed that, but I knew that I wasn't going to stay in that job forever. And during that time, I worked with a lot of MD MBAs who at the system level were able to affect change by pursuing campaigns or technologies and solutions to increase the reach of the health system beyond just the four walls of the clinic or the hospital, but also got to have that one-on-one patient interaction. And throughout that entire stretch of time, I was traveling to these sites and interacting with physicians in a clinical setting and watching how they interacted with patients and seeing how fulfilling that role was. And I decided that's what I wanted to do. So in order to go to medical school, you do have to take science classes, and I hadn't taken any. So I applied to the University of Louisville's post-bac pre-med program, which is an awesome option for anybody that hasn't taken any sort of science in undergrad but wants to pursue a career in medicine. It's a really great program where they help you over about 1.5 years or 2 years, depending on what kind of credits you need. They help you take all of the prerequisite courses to apply to medical school, and then help you take the MCAT. They give you specialized study materials and provide other resources to help you along the way. But that was very helpful for me in getting into U of L. I didn't apply to any other medical school. Went straight from that into U of L. And I knew from the time that I started the postbac program that I wanted to do a dual degree with the MBA because it'll give me more options, and I'm interested in a career that ultimately is at the intersections of business, medicine, and technology. So that's how I ended up here, and I don't regret any step along the way.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey from, going to Center College and then the University of Louisville and how that process worked for you. You and Austin and John both are all internship seeking students. So what was that process like?
Yeah, I think my situation was certainly kind of different graduating last year. I think a lot of, current seniors and, students can learn from my experience just because, they're probably going to be going through the same, if not very similar situations with, the pandemic still ongoing. But I know I had parents that both got econ and finance degrees that ended up getting their MBAs, later in their 20s, early 30s. And so I knew it was always something I wanted to do. As much as people say that econ and business are the same, they're really not. Business is a little bit more practical. You can learn a lot of real world experiences with it. And so, ultimately that was something I wanted to do. A lot of the positions I was looking for second semester last year that I was really interested in all started to say, hey, we're going on hiring freezes, things of that nature. And a big thing for me during that stressful time was that I wasn't prepared to just sit on my couch and wait out, a pandemic for positions to try and open up. Ultimately, I wanted to, continue to add value and benefit myself. And so I looked towards an MBA program. I actually talked to, Kirk, who's not on this call, but he was great. And I brought the idea up to him, and, he thought it was a great idea. And, ultimately, I knew I wanted to stay in Kentucky. And so, if you want to stay in Kentucky, I don't know why you wouldn't go to the biggest city with the most potential for business opportunities. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of how I made it to U of L through their MBA program. I know I talked to you a lot, Stephen, throughout the process, just asking questions and things of that nature. Not going to lie, I was fairly nervous coming into it straight out of undergrad, just because I felt like that was kind of abnormal at the time. But ultimately, it's been great so far, and I'm really happy with the decision I made.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and that's, I think you've all kind of touched on the same point, or at least it's highlighted by your presence here is, our full-time MBA does cater typically to recent graduates because it has the internship component built into it. But if you were to look around your classroom, in a normal year, a non-COVID year where you were all in the same room, you would find people of very diverse backgrounds, both academically and professionally. Years of experience ranges from 0, Matt, to 5, 6, 7, John, 2, Austin. I'm going to count your 3, law school and the work you were doing there. So it does range. That cohort is designed, I think, to, as you pointed out, Matt, be a very practical based program. So it's the theory of econ is one thing. Being able to do the quantitative coursework and accounting is a scary part for some people. Us international studies majors have to stick together. We may not have necessarily been the best at math, but those cohort models where you're on a team with 5 other people, and of those 5, probably at least 4 of them are pretty strong in math. I know that's how I would have looked at the situation. And also it provides opportunities for students in a time of uncertainty. And there's a dump truck outside my house, so I hope you can't hear too much of that. But I do think that that's a great point as well. As we kind of get out of this malaise economically and socially, hopefully, things will open up, and you want to be prepared to seize that opportunity. And I know that Center does prepare students to seize opportunity because they put it in front of their students at almost every turn. Austin, can you tell us a little bit about how your time at Center, the things that you did as an undergraduate, may have prepared you for your MBA experience?
I certainly can. I think we should start with someone else, though, so I can cut down some background noise, and I'll be right back. I apologize.
Yeah, not a problem. We'll just keep in order. John, how about you?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that one of the things I really loved about Center was the freedom to pursue study and whatever I was passionate about, and the opportunities to take responsibility and have control over the projects that I was involved in. And I think that has kind of guided my career choices, because I've always sought out opportunities where I had the ability and was trusted with the responsibility of taking a big role in important projects early. And so I felt like, that was a continuation of the, I guess, the spirit of what drove my choice to pursue international relations at Center, and specifically on the things that I focused on while I did that. I also would say that Center really teaches you how to think, right? They don't tell you what to think, but they teach you how to think, and how to really analyze things from both a broad and a specific point of view. And that's important no matter what you go into. That's important to be able to make good decisions, and have sound judgment, and to build credibility in whatever you do, especially from a professional perspective. On top of all that, I would say that the diversity and the things that I've studied, and being a non-traditional student, has only benefited me when it comes to applying for leadership positions within the School of Medicine or College of Business, as well as just medical school and residency type things. I think people appreciate someone with a diverse background, someone who's well-rounded, and people know what Center offers, and the caliber of the students that they produce, and the body of work that the students have to produce in order to graduate with a Center degree. So I would say all those things combined really have benefited me greatly throughout this whole process.
Should I hop back in now, or where are we? Steven, you're muted at the moment.
2020 strikes again. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Austin, and then we'll kick it over to Matt.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I think Center does a really good job at preparing students to be able to handle a large amount of work. There's no shortage of papers and things like this, long papers, especially from the International Studies Department, that did prepare me both for kind of what to expect going into a graduate program, and the long days and the number of hours that it takes to actually get the work done that needs to be done in a timely manner. When I was at Center, I also went for a whole bunch of leadership positions. I was, in my first year, the principal clarinetist in the orchestra and the wind ensemble, and then after that, also the jazz band. And then transitioned into being an international student orientation leader, became the chief international student orientation leader by my senior year, which is where I got to interact quite a bit with Stephen. And then there were leadership positions within my fraternity when I was doing that. And that's transitioned into me just wanting to be a part of leadership in any school that I'm in, or any organization that I'm in. And that kind of initiative that a lot of people don't necessarily have, I think, is really brought out to shine in Center students. And I think that's something you should leverage as a Center graduate and really lean on as you move forward in your professional life, as you get into the real world.
Absolutely. Matt, can you expand on that? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I love a lot of the stuff that John was saying about, Center really does teach you to, kind of think holistically. And, you know, whether you recognize the importance of that while you're at center or not, it's, you know, critical as you move forward into an internship like we're all doing. You know, as you touched upon earlier, the team aspect is something that I guess we shouldn't really shouldn't go unnoticed. Is that somebody that I know I played 3 years of varsity basketball at center, and so, you know, just being able to work with my team, you know, full of people of completely different backgrounds and things of that nature, you know, I feel like center is, you know, very well equipped me for that. You know, the classes as well. You know, I personally feel like I kind of pushed myself to take my last year at center to take some additional econ classes that I didn't really actually need to graduate, just to kind of prepare myself for the business world. And, but, you know, before I even saw myself going to get my MBA. So, you know, I would really, you know, suggest that to current students is, you know, push yourself, take classes that, you know, you sound or you think are interesting, that, you know, you could potentially tie into a future career. And, you know, ultimately, I guess center really does a good job of getting you ready for school. You know, I certainly had heard that from my friends that were older than me at the time that went on to do postgraduate education. I certainly have my doubts, but, you know, so far center has very well equipped me, and I'm very grateful for that.
It's sort of like, you know, you train harder than you need to compete, right? And so
Yeah, exactly.
the workload that you all have, you know, survived, I guess we could say, probably thrived at center, probably mirrors that of the MBA. Can you talk a little bit about the work-life balance? John, I know that, you know, you're in a dual program. You're currently just focusing on the MBA, but and we should mention that the internship programs, they are paid. So that's also worth pointing out to anyone who's thinking about, well, what's the benefit of an internship? Well, you're getting paid to go to school and to build your resume. But can you talk about the course load? You know, how many hours are you spending on your coursework and then at work?
Yeah, sure. So as far as work responsibilities go, I'm fortunate that I'm in a position where I can work as much or as little as I want. I do work full-time hours and some weeks overtime, just because of the nature of the projects that I'm working on. They do require quite a bit of attention, and we're on some pretty tight timelines in terms of implementation. Just with the nature of healthcare, things kind of have to fit certain timelines and agendas. But it's very rewarding work. It's very fulfilling to be a part of these projects, and of course, it doesn't hurt to make a little money. That being said, I definitely probably have less free time than I thought I would have, based on the coursework demands. They aren't. I wouldn't say that they're unfair in terms of what we're expected to do, but it is a full-time program. You are expected to complete a full body of work for an MBA degree, and I think that that's fair. It just will come down to, as a, you know, on a personal level, how much that you as a student want to or need to focus on school versus how much you want to or need to focus on work. And that's going to be different for every individual. But I would say that, you know, it is a lot of work, but it is meant to be, and it's very rewarding. I would also say that anybody that's expecting, you know, that's interested in pursuing a MD, MBA dual degree, don't expect medical school to be easier than the MBA or anything like that. It's certainly quite a bit of work as well.
Yeah. Anyone want to add to that about the current workload and then the balance with the internship?
Yeah, I'd love to touch on that. I would think anything that has the name master's, you know, at the beginning of it, it's not going to be, you know, a light amount of schoolwork. But, you know, another thing I meant to touch on this before, a thing that Center really taught us well, you know, is time management. You know, I can't really speak on what it was like, you know, pre-COVID, but, you know, with classes online at night, you know, your employer gives you flexibility as far as when you want to work. I know Steven told me the average was like 20 to 40 hours a week. So I personally only intern 3 days a week, which has been tremendous for me so far. Cause, you know, I have days like today where, you know, I can really lock in on schoolwork and get ahead and things of that nature. which has just been great for me. You know, I don't know how all the employers are as far as, you know, being flexible, but I'm sure, you know, they're very well willing to, because they know you're going through a master's program, and, you know, they're always asking about that and things of that nature. So, you know, I really think that, you know, there's a lot to gain from doing an internship, you know, while also having that balance of schoolwork, and, you know, it'll really carry over to other things in your life. You know, it's just teaching you invaluable skills.
Absolutely. Austin?
Yeah, I've got a few thoughts. So I'm torn because a lot of my recent experience, and a lot of my recent growth has come from the Juris Doctorate. And that was a time and a half when you look at the commitment that it takes to get a law degree. In addition, I was working part-time while getting that degree as well in all 3 years. The one thing, I guess the big overarching thing that I would say everyone needs to keep with them as they graduate is a sense of humility. Don't ever go into any situation assuming that you're the best in the room. It doesn't help anyone. And I bring that up because with a bigger sense of humility, you won't end up taking the responsibility of the entire team on your own. Recognizing, especially in the MBA program, that other members of your team have valuable experiences in their own right, will make you a stronger team member, team player. The workload that I currently set up, so other thing I will say as a general life tip, the more you do, the more you're going to be asked to do. I like to bite off more than I can chew, and I think I got that from Center. I took leadership positions in law school. I took leadership positions in the MBA program. I'm the current president of the full-time MBA. I play in a band on the weekends, and in addition to working 40 hours a week with the full-time MBA program and having, 35 to 40 hours, depends on the week. And also serving on a board of the Phi Kappa fraternity Delta chapter. So you can always find more to do, and recognizing when to say no and when to, where is that limit is very important, especially if you want to have a work-life balance, which right now I don't think I do. You have to know where the limits are, where you need to draw the limits to make time for other people, family. It's all very important. So it's one thing I think I needed to learn after I graduated Center.
Absolutely. Great points. And Sarah, you are the graduate of the program here. Could you maybe speak to your experience maybe in the program and how you juggled the internship and the coursework, and how your life outside of both of those two key components, felt fulfilled?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a rigorous program, but a big part of it is you're never alone. So you have those team members, and you're working with your team throughout the entire program. So you're really never alone in anything that you do. I lived at home throughout the program, but I always make jokes that I saw my cohort more than I saw my family. So make friends with people in your cohort. I know it's probably a little bit harder for the current cohorts with being online, but my cohort, after class, we would go get a bite to eat together. We would go do something on after our PDM on Saturday. That's from 9 to 5. We would go do something after that. So we would find ways within ourselves in the cohort to have that work and life balance within ourselves, because we were really all in it together with my cohort. All of us had internships. We were really all about, the very first thing we would do when we go to class is ask the person sitting next to you how their day at work was. Really make those connections with the people in your class. learn about their internships, learn where they are. Really connect with those people, grow your connections, because it's really going to help with, even though you're in a rigorous program, it's going to help you feel a little bit more balanced as you're doing the coursework.
Absolutely. And a couple of things you all pointed out. One is like the connections that you had at Center, and Sarah through the MBA program. I think it's important to keep in mind, an MBA student prototypically going into business, and business is the term we use, but could mean a wide range of things. Networking, we cannot stress the importance of that enough. That is the Center Mafia, right? We would call the Center Mafia. I think the MBA program, you cannot throw a rock in Louisville without hitting a College of Business graduate. As a member of our MBA programs, you are given a complimentary membership to the Young Professionals Association of Louisville. So I would always encourage any student who's going to do this program, just like when you're in your undergraduate experience, to take advantage of the opportunities presented to you, while also being cognizant of the time management that Austin pointed out. And another thing was, a lot of students I think I've spoken to in the past are apprehensive about joining an MBA because they don't feel like they're a leader, or they don't feel like they have a business background. As Austin and John have pointed out, they didn't study necessarily business or econ. And so I think that's worth pointing out. But what about the leadership aspect? An MBA is training future business leaders, essentially. If you look at Fortune 500 companies and you take their top, vice presidents all the way up to CEOs, I'd be willing to bet, and the last time I looked, I think it was like 70% had MBAs. So what is it about an MBA program that you feel like is training you to be a leader? And this is an open question for Sarah or John or anyone.
I think you can be a leader in any way. I know last year with myself, I wasn't an elected leader, but everybody called me the class mom. On Christmas, I brought everybody Christmas cookies. I made a birthday calendar for everybody, made sure everybody's birthday was celebrated. Really just the little things to make sure that we were bonded, I guess. You can really be a leader in any way that you don't have to be an elected leader to be a leader of your cohort. You can find a way to be a leader in any way that you want to be a leader. So it really brings out those leadership abilities throughout the entire program.
Yeah, and I like what you said, Sarah. Maybe it's just because I have a little bit of sports background, but I just feel like an MBA kind of empowers you with confidence. I'm not saying that I wasn't a leader before I started the program, but just refining your skills. I've definitely had stuff that's overlapped as far as coursework with stuff I did at Center so far, which has been awesome. And then there's also just been, other things that I never took at Center, and, back to the holistic thinking mindset, that's kind of been something, it helps you get through those situations where, you may not think you're going to get through it. And then once you're on the other side, you just look back and you're proud that you powered through and, got it done. So, I guess ultimately there are a lot of benefits, that come with doing an MBA.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was in Matt, I was in a similar position as yourself. Although I don't know that we knew it when we first started talking, but when I graduated undergrad in 2008, the economy had crashed, and here I am, a political science and international studies major, and I go to DC to find a job, and when the government's not hiring, you're in trouble. So so I went straight to grad school because I saw it as an opportunity. One, I wanted to do it anyways, but also I knew that if I put it off, I may not get in, I may not actually take that leap. And so I took the time when it seemed like there was an economic downturn and opportunities weren't available, to go to a place that focuses on opportunities, right? A graduate school really does focus on, making you the best person and best, I would say in our case, business leader that you could be. So consider that, for those of you watching this, what opportunities, don't look at the COVID as, crushing all of your dreams and hopes. There are opportunities around every corner because of this situation, whether that be, GMAT waivers for admissions or, increased remote internship experiences. I think there really is an opportunity here for everybody to seize. With our last question, I was going to ask you all what your plans are after your MBA. And so let me do that, and then also give you a second at the end of that to add anything else you all would like to in conclusion, and we'll go ahead and wrap up after that. So John, let's start with you. We know you're in the dual program, but why don't you make us enlighten us a little more on where you plan to be in, say, 4 years?
Yeah, sure. So the way that medical school and medical training works is you complete medical school and then you move on to a residency program in whatever specialty that you want to do. So for me, that's going to be emergency medicine. So I will complete the MBA program, finish my last year of medical school, match into emergency medicine, and complete my emergency medicine residency training. That being said, the MBA is going to give me a lot of opportunities within my future training to hold leadership positions and get involved in projects that people without an MBA simply won't be able to. Going back to your previous question about what does an MBA do for you and how does it affect your leadership or impact your ability to lead, I would say two things. One is that all things equal, if you are being considered for a position of leadership and you are going up against, or you're competing for the spot against somebody that has the exact same background as you, if you have an MBA after your name, you're going to get that spot, because in any industry now, leadership positions require people to make business decisions, and the person with a formal business training is going to be trusted in a way that at a certain point, it doesn't matter how much practical experience you have, people will trust the letters after your name. And that's especially true as you get higher up in organizations, and especially in publicly traded companies where people have to be able to justify why they put you in a position. That formal training gives you that edge on that. So I expect to be able to use my dual degree to leverage my opportunities for leadership throughout my training, and then eventually in my medical practice. The other thing is that an MBA program like ours teaches you the skills to walk into a situation with credibility up front, right? So in my mind, respect is earned based off of credibility. And if you can come to the table saying, I went through this program, I learned how to do these things, and I have a process of thinking that I was trained to apply in order to make these decisions, that adds to your credibility bank and elevates your voice in a room where it otherwise may not be elevated. So that's kind of my take on that. Long term, I just want to have as many options as possible. Medicine and business are inextricably intertwined, and will continue to be so, even more so in the future. And so I hope to be able to use the skills I learn now to affect change and push health outcomes in the future.
And I can imagine if you're going to start your own practice, it could only help to understand kind of how that intersection comes to be with business, organizational development, human resources, things of that nature. You'll eventually hire someone to do all of that for you, I'm sure, but to know what that person will be required to do, I think is important.
And even I would say, if people don't want to open their own practice, which is not really possible anymore, within a health system or a hospital system, those leadership positions need to be filled by physicians with a business background. And so, for those out there who might be interested in medicine but don't want to open their own practice, even working within a hospital, you'll need an MBA.
Great point. Austin, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I will be taking the bar. Ideally, I was looking at the Washington, D.C. bar before it got postponed because it's a uniform bar examination, and that's a whole different animal in itself. Just more jurisdictional practice abilities afterwards is what it boils down to. But that'll be in the next 2 years-ish, depending on the job I get after the contract with GLI inevitably runs out in August of 2021 and the internship ends. And with the, in the next 3 to 4 years, I'd like to find myself in a consulting role for either a major consulting firm or as an internal consultant for a Fortune 500 company, with the hopes that in the next 10 years, I can kind of pick wherever I want to be in the world and, be able to settle down into one location. I can be done with the 90% travel jobs if that ever actually becomes a reality again. And with that, I would be able to kind of do what I think Center taught me to, or trained me to do well, and what law school further honed, which is being able to be an advocate for people in different positions, being able to take the mindset of a problem solver to a host of different issues with a variety of different lenses to look at every problem. And I think, again, that's one thing Center does very well, is train students to think critically from different perspectives.
Absolutely. Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, so, it's like what John was saying, having an MBA just ultimately opens up a ton of options. I'm currently, I guess when I started the program, I guess I'll say that Louisville does a great job of, putting internships in front of you. And, you can really kind of pick and choose and interview for the positions you may or may not want. I personally was actually trying to work in Louisville before I even decided to go get my MBA. So I reached out to companies that I was trying to work at full time once I got into the program. And luckily for me, I was able to land my internship at Assured Partners. It was one of the places I really wanted to work at full time prior to COVID. So, I'm, kind of in the background working on employee benefits, financial exhibits and things like that. But I've, kind of been working with the president of the, the Midwest and our office to, have a plan in place for when I graduate from this program to kind of move into a bigger role full time. But at the same time, all the other companies that, went on freeze periods in the middle of the pandemic are all starting to reach out again now and, want to set up interviews and things of that nature. So, just having that, in your back pocket, and, when I've been talked to a few of these companies and just telling them that, you didn't want to sit on your butt and wait out COVID and that you went to go get your MBA, that's something that they really value. It shows a lot about yourself and that, you want to keep getting better and you want to keep adding value to yourself and your professional development. So, I don't have a clear-cut answer to what I'm going to be doing in August, September of 21, but, I think all three of us will have a ton of options moving forward. And so, an MBA is invaluable. I think a lot of Center students don't, necessarily see the importance of it, or they don't want to go back to school right after just getting out of college. But as somebody that's doing it 1 year later, I think the academic aspect to it, is, just, it's a lot more fresh to me. I was still able to, be flexible with work and my schedule and things of that nature. So I really recommend it for people. And, even if you don't necessarily want to go to grad school at 22, it's really a better idea than you may think.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Does anyone have anything else to add? If not, I do want to thank the panelists here, John, Austin, Matt, Sarah. Thank you for providing your perspective. This has been a great conversation. I hope that those of you out there in the virtual world have the opportunity to to learn from it. And if you do have questions, you're more than free to reach out to me directly, and I can connect you with any of our panelists or with Sarah or myself to answer any questions you have. Because while I think this is a great conversation and we really honed in on what the MBA provides and the opportunities available, there may be additional questions, and there are more opportunities than obviously we can cover in an hour Zoom session. So I appreciate your all's time. I truly do, and I'm glad that you are all in our program, and I'm excited to see where it takes you. I really am. And please, this is for the panelists and any students listening. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to me. My information is blasted all over the University of Louisville website, so I'm not a hard person to find.
I have one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
So maybe you're like me if you're watching this. So I graduated my undergrad in 3 years, and I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. And that's why I went and got my MBA, because the MBA program led me in the direction. I had no idea what industry I wanted to work in, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. I just knew I had a management and marketing degree, and I was like, I don't know what to do with it. So the MBA program helped me find what I wanted to do, and now I'm in higher education, and I love it. And that's really what the MBA program is for. You're getting your MBA, and it's a great program, but also at the same time with that internship program, you're finding a passion for yourself. So really, you're putting yourself out there for employers. You're finding a passion for yourself. So
Absolutely.
maybe you're like me and don't know what you want to do, and you should really just take that leap. So yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's a great point, Sarah. A lot of internships, especially at the undergraduate level, I think are to find out what you don't want to do. So I interned undergrad with a then state senator who is now a congressional member in Kentucky, and I realized politics is not it for me, but international relations and certainly was. So I got my graduate degree. I think it's a little different at U of L at the graduate level. Those internships are a lot more focused on, okay, what is it you are interested in? So as you all heard from all of our panelists, they landed really great internships that are going to that cater to their interest and their specialties, and are going to open some amazing doors for them. So again, thank you all for your time. I know you're busy. Stay safe, stay healthy, and go Cards.
This way. Oh, which way is it on a video? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.